Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus SANE show. And I am very excited about today's guest because she has a place near and dear to my heart, not only because of who she's related to, but also because she attended university at a university that's very close to my house and is actually next to a park that my wife and I frequent on a recurring basis, Bailor University. She's the author of the brand new book, Natural Solutions for Digestive Health. Dr. Jillian Teta, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it is my pleasure. You're out there championing digestive health and other metabolic effect goodness, and you went to school right in my neck of the woods. So before we get into the book, tell me how you started on this journey.
Wow. All right. So I went to Bailor University. I started there in 2003, and I actually came to find out about naturopathic medicine actually because of a puppy that I had. This is really kind of a long, crazy story, but I had this like really special type of puppy, and the breeder of the puppy said, well, I have this other lady. She's thinking about getting a dog for me. Would you mind talking to her? And I was like, sure. And it turned out that the lady who called me that was interested in the puppy was a naturopathic doctor. And I had no idea about this branch of medicine. Found out about naturopathic medicine, went to school. I went out to Bailor at SANE Park, and the rest is sort of history. When I finished, I moved to North Carolina to join Keone and Teta at their practice, and then we've just been going ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. When folks, if you don't know, obviously Keone and Jade and Jillian here, and also Jade's wife, Jill. I'm learning all the names. Look, I just nailed that, man. I drank some coffee before the show.
Got it.
And they're over at Metabolic Effect. If you haven't checked out Metabolic Effect and the new, I'm totally botching the original book name, Jillian. What is it? The New Me?
No, it's the New Me diet, and then their second printing they called it like the Metabolic Effect diet. So you're right. I mean,
Gotcha.
You got it. Yeah.
That is excellent. Check it out if you haven't already. And then also the newest in the arsenal of Metabolic Effect book offerings is your new book, Natural Solutions for Digestive Health. And digestive health seems to be the new hotness.
Whew. Yes. You know, I'm glad it's the new hotness because we desperately, desperately need it as a nation. You know, GI complaints have just skyrocketed over the last 50 years. And really, this book was born because I saw so many people at the clinic that needed help. And so I started developing a program based on good, like functional medicine. And then the book kind of sprang from that.
So Jillian, what is because sometimes I hear from folks, we have this general guidance that is becoming popular, eat like your grandmother ate or something like that. And they'll say, okay, well, my grandmother, soda existed when my grandmother existed, and so did cakes and pies, but not everyone had GI problems. So like, what is it about what's happening today that's causing all those GI problems?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think in a nutshell, even though it's kind of a complicated, multi-layered answer, that the crux of it really is it's our environment. And by environment, it's not just like, you know, the sunshine and the birds and things like that. We're talking about not just like the food that we eat, the water that we drink, but also the soil that the food was grown in. So our external environment, if we think about what's been going on there, we have new thousands and thousands and thousands of new chemicals every year being put in just at an unprecedented rate. Our grandparents did not eat the amount of processed foods that we ate, even though, you know, they had sugar and flour and soda and all of that stuff. They weren't eating quite the volume. So I think we eat too much of the wrong foods too often. And then we have a ton of internal stressors. Our grandparents were faced with, they dealt with stress differently than we do. And I think that that's also an enormous part. So I think it's multifocal. I think it has a lot to do with our food. It has a lot to do with the new toxicants that are in our environment. And I think it has a lot to do with our internal stressors. And then the fact that our digestion as a nation is weakened makes us more prone to pathogenic infection and just more functional bowel disorders than we've ever had. And that's evidenced by things like irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, the rates of that have just been exponentially growing in the last 50 years.
I love this focus on broader focus on things besides food, because I'll get a little bit personal here for a second. Obviously, folks know that I'm very tuned into what I eat, and I try to eat, you know, very sanely and healthfully. But I have just had a long and drawn out history of digestive problems because I have gastritis and was on a very strong medication to prevent getting ulcers, and that was just causing all sorts of nonsense. So how much of this is also stress related, medication related, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So about half of people in this country of all ages are on some type of pharmaceutical drug. So that aspect of our environment is huge as well. But when we think about digestive health as an entity, in its entirety, it's not just about food. It's also about our ability to digest food. I call that our digestive fire, like the ability to break down proteins, carbohydrates, and fats with stomach acid and enzymes and bile. So we have to consider that. You could be eating a diet that's absolutely perfect for you, low allergen, and you're avoiding all your sensitivities, and it's whole foods based, and it's wonderful. But if you can't break down your food because you've been on an acid blocker for 3 years, you're going to have impaired digestion. Also, we have to consider the health of the microbiome, which is our colony of beneficial bacteria that live in our large intestine. These guys act like an organ unto themselves. They provide dozens, hundreds of functions for us. We're still learning what they do for us, not just in terms of digestion, but also our blood lipids, even our body composition, our propensity to develop neurodegenerative conditions, our state of mind, those things. Next, I'm just sort of like moving down the list here. The integrity of the lining of the GI tract is huge. So gastritis, issues in the stomach. We can have issues in the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, all the way down. You want that lining to have good integrity. And then you want the enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system that lives in the GI tract. You want that to be balanced and healthy too. So there's a lot of layers there. There's a lot of considerations there beyond simply diet. Although diet is a big piece of that, it's not everything.
And so what are I can imagine, like most things in life, this is very customized. It's going to be very case by case specific. But I mean, there's been a lot of talk about probiotics. There's been a lot of talk about grains. What is there an 80-20 here in terms of digestive optimization?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My gut restoration program, I typically have people do an intervention for 4 weeks at 4-week intervals. So every 4 weeks we kind of reassess symptoms. And I do a multi-pronged approach. So that does include an elimination diet of, like the common allergens. So like your gluten, your dairy, your soy, legumes, the whole 9 yards. I also have people take a probiotic. I also have people take a digestive enzyme. If it's indicated, I'll also have them supplement with acid. And I typically have them take some type of leaky gut repair product like GI Revive by Designs for Health, or permeability factors, or intestinal complex. Like there's a wide variety of those sort of like, quote, leaky gut, but really just small intestine boosting nutrient formulations. And then we work a lot with like lifestyle intervention. Like, are you sleeping? Do you have decent relationships? Like, can you communicate your emotions or your needs to people? Are you overwhelmed? Like, okay, you're overwhelmed. What are we doing for you to help you from feeling that way? So it's a multifaceted approach. I don't know if that answers your question in terms of, is it 80-20? I think with people with chronic, like with a emergent GI issue, like they're having symptoms and they need it to be addressed, I tend to do a fairly focused but sort of strict intervention for a set amount of time and then reassess and then go from there.
And
hopefully along the way.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hopefully along the way, like helping people figure out like, okay, maybe they do have a sensitivity, or maybe they do need extra enzymes all the time. So through the process, you actually do a lot of detective work about your own body and your own system. And so you can meet your needs by yourself. You don't need a coach or a book or this. So that's like the ultimate goal of my book and program, is to just, help people feel better, and then also help them empower themselves to feel better.
And at what point, so there must, I would imagine there's going to be a spectrum of digestive distress. So take me a little bit along the lines of, because it's very easy to have sort of psychosomatic, everyone's got gut problems nowadays, and there's some people that actually really do have them. So let's talk through like, what is my life like if I have severe problems? What is my life like if it's just kind of moderate? And what's my life like if I don't really have to worry about this? Yeah,
so basically, if you have zero GI distress, like if you don't notice your GI system at all, you move your bowels regularly, you don't have any discomfort in your GI system, you don't have like excessive gas, you're not bloated, you don't have gas that can like knock somebody's socks off, you're fine. That's fairly, I mean, you're great. If, however, there are any type of GI symptoms, I'm constantly burping, like I feel nauseous in the morning when I wake up, like I never know what the bathroom situation is going to be, you need an intervention. I mean, period. So if there's any GI symptoms at all, they likely need an intervention for their GI tract. And then interestingly, certain other problems that might be ongoing or chronic, things like headaches or acne or joint pain, even those aren't related to the GI system, they often have their origins there. So a lot of different foods or a lot of different dysfunctions in the GI system, like dysbiosis or pathogenic infection, can lead to these extra gastrointestinal effects, meaning outside of the GI system sort of symptoms. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I appreciate earlier about you saying this message of empowerment, how people are going to need to be able to customize this for themselves. Because personally, let me kind of tell you my story here a little bit, and you tell me if I accidentally stumbled upon a useful approach here. Because I mean, I'm 31 years old, and I have been struggling with certain digestive problems for 15 years. I mean, significant. But recently, they've kind of gone away. So let me tell you what I've started doing recently, and I'm pretty excited about this. I hope it sticks. So first of all, I went off of the prescription whatever inhibitor thing. So I believe it was called Protonix, and I was taking some. So went off that. Went on Zantac instead because I needed something. I couldn't just go off it completely. Then I started eating my non-starchy vegetables and protein in smaller, more frequent doses rather than in bigger, less frequent doses. Yeah. And then when I ate them, in my green smoothies, I started adding apple cider vinegar. And those three things seem to have made a big difference. Is that in my brain, or is there something behind that?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's what I'm talking about. So with the apple cider vinegar, you're enhancing your own inherent digestive fire. And going from Protonix to Zantac was a good actual stepping stone down, because as you begin to, get several weeks and months of stability under your belt, you're going to be able to come off that too, probably. So and then by eating smaller, more frequent meals, you are, in a sense, less burdensome on the GI tract for digestion. So yes, you have stumbled upon something wonderful for you, and that's exactly what everybody should be trying to find their own unique approach in that way. So yes, I love it.
Thank you. And when it really highlights too that taking that holistic view of health, because there's in the internet, the hotness, digestive health is hotness, so is fasting. And I grew up in the bodybuilding world, so I was always eating frequently, keeping yourself, protein synthesis, all that good stuff, and it worked for a while. It worked quite well. Then I was like, oh, fast. So I stopped eating as frequently, but I still wanted to keep my vegetable intake up. So I was just bombing my digestive system with like 8 servings of vegetables at a time. And that didn't work out so well. So again, you have to kind of balance all these different factors, right?
And like you said, you're going to have different approaches even at different times in your life. So someone like a bodybuilder that has GI complaints is going to probably require a totally different approach than someone who maybe isn't doing that, or someone who's sedentary, or someone who's even a CrossFitter. So yes, at the bottom line always is it has to be to the individual. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work because they're not going to stick with it. Like you can't stick a round peg in a square hole, or whatever that expression is. It's just not sustainable. So ultimately finding the things that work and are sustainable, that's the holy grail in medicine. And unfortunately, our conventional medical practices have really just sort of taken the art out of medicine. They have taken out that like unique finesse of tailoring it to the individual. And that's why I really love, functional and complementary and integrative medicine, because there still is that space and that room for individualized, tailored medicine.
Jillian, let's explore that a little bit, because I think a lot of our listeners and viewers may not be familiar with just how true what you said is, meaning that if standard medical care deviates from standard of practice or standard of care, even if the physician believes, I know many physicians personally, MDs who believe that a lower carbohydrate lifestyle is the way to go, but they don't recommend it in their practice because they're afraid they'll get sued. So talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's true. Unfortunately, we're going more and more towards standard of care. And if you deviate from that standard, you can leave yourself vulnerable to action, to lawsuits, to action from whatever hospital or clinic you're based out of. It can be really problematic. And really, ultimately, the people who suffer the most are the clients, are the patients, because they're not getting the care that they need. Because you go, it requires no thought now to go in and see your doctor. You say, okay, I have disease X, they're going to give you drug X. You have disease Y, they're going to give you drug Y. That's it. That's it. There's no finesse anymore. Well, I take that back. I never make blanket statements, because there are some really excellent, wonderful doctors out there. But in the general trenches, it's very difficult to get personalized care. And also, it's hard because most doctors, they get a 12-minute max with their patients. It takes a lot longer than 12 minutes to figure out what somebody's eating. And what these docs are mostly doing is trying to put out fires. So they're like reviewing the medications, making sure you're not going to like die in the next 3 months. And then they're like, all right, see you later. I mean, really, we're kind of laughing and giggling, but it's the truth. I mean, at our clinic, we see, we have residents from Wake Forest University. We have the third-year medical residents come through that are training at a Baptist hospital. And I mean, all they do is put out fires. They just put out fires. So that's sort of the direction that our healthcare is going in, unfortunately, but we'll see.
So moving back into the natural solutions for digestive health arena. So in the few minutes remaining we have on the show, there's a lot going on in the digestive arena. What can we look forward to that is unique and uniquely Jillian in natural solutions for digestive health?
Oh, goodness. All right. I guess the thing that is uniquely me is that I really do try to find those individual best practices for the unique person, okay? But I use it in the framework of covering all of those bases, all of those facets of digestive health, because there's so many inputs into what makes good digestion. In the future, right now I'm in the process of developing a very specific IBS protocol, because I'm very interested in IBS because of the not just the volume of people with IBS that I see, but just the overall exponential rate of diagnosis of that. And also because it's so interesting, there are so many reasons for IBS. And so it really lends well to, okay, it's like a detective case, like what's causing the IBS. So I'm developing my Banish program now, and we're going to banish IBS.
I love it. Well, certainly
so that's what's coming up for me.
That deserves to be banished. So that's what's coming up for you. Where can we learn more about natural solutions for digestive health, you in general, and the whole metabolic effect family?
Okay, so the book, we actually sold out of our first printing in 6 days. So that's pretty awesome. It's available on Amazon. It's still in Barnes & Noble and like just little random bookstores sprinkled around. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/fixyourdigestion. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is @Jillian Teta. I have a online do-it-yourself sort of like 4-week gut restoration program that the book is loosely based on. So I've got that going on too. And then of course with Metabolic Effect, we are on Facebook and Twitter. So facebook.com/metabolic effect, and then Twitter is @metabolic effect. So definitely check us out there.
That's awesome. Well, Jillian, thank you so much for joining us today. And I really appreciate this additional contribution to the wellness universe because, I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of families I can say this about, but really anything you, Jill, Jade, or Keone touch is like gold in the wellness world. So folks, again, that's not a small thing to say, but honestly, Metabolic Effect, solid. They've inspired me for many, many years, and I hope they'll inspire you. So Jillian, thank you again for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, Jonathan, thank you. That's so sweet.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, listeners and viewers, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Again, we have the wonderful Jillian Teta with us. She's the author of Natural Solutions for Digestive Health. She's part of the Metabolic Effect family. And be sure to check out her work and the rest of her family's work. And remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. We'll chat with you soon. Bye-bye.